Draw me a sheep, the secret of art. Okay, let's see if I can deliver on this one. Today, we're going to talk about this book, The Little Prince, written in 1943 by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. You may have read this as a kid or to your kids. It was also a 1974 movie, a weird 80s cartoon that I think I sort of remember, a 2010 animated series, and a really excellent 2015 animated movie. But today, right here in the original text, which I have in deluxe pop-up format, let's check out a really valuable lesson about art, maybe the ultimate lesson about art, about visual communication, about capturing imaginations, about engaging a viewer, the core stuff that makes people like your art. It's all in here. So the key scene begins with a pilot who has crashed his plane in the Sahara Desert when he is approached by this little, let's say, prince-like figure who doesn't seem worried about dying from dehydration or exposure, but simply asks the pilot, "Please draw me a sheep." So after getting over the initial absurdity of the situation, the pilot whips out his sketch pad, which all pilots carry, and drew the boy a sheep, which was immediately rejected. "No! This one is already quite sick. Make another." So the pilot drew another, which was immediately rejected. You can see for yourself that's not a sheep. It's a ram. It has horns. So the pilot drew a third sheep, but the boy said, "This one's too old. I want a sheep that will live a long time." So now the pilot finally got frustrated with his client and just drew a box and said, "This is the crate. The sheep that you want is inside." And the kid just lights up. "That's just the kind I wanted. I wonder what kind of grass it will eat. And oh, look, he's gone to sleep." Why did he like the box? I'm betting you get it, right? When the pilot drew what he thought the boy wanted, it got rejected over and over for one reason or another. But when the pilot drew a container, the sheep became whatever the boy wanted it to be in his imagination. And that is the power that we can wield. Make your art into a container, a box for your viewer's imagination to fill with the perfect sheep. Now that sounds abstract and kind of useless. So let's talk about how to make this into something that you can actually use that really moves the needle on how your art is being received. Let's check out some paintings that are all using this concept in different ways and give you some concrete do's and don'ts. Suggest but don't show. This whole box thing, this container metaphor, is about giving your viewer a job to do. When we are recruiting their imagination to do a lot of the lifting for us, if we can suggest without overtly showing everything, our viewer's mind will connect dots and the image becomes alive to them. It becomes whatever they want it to be, which usually makes them like it more. It becomes that perfect sheep inside of the box. So, do we just draw nothing and tell our viewers to imagine something cool? No. We do have to do some of that art stuff, but the key is often knowing where to stop, not to overwork things, not to detail every pixel or every corner of an image. A digital painting that feels overworked is kind of like handing someone a coloring book or a crossword puzzle that's already filled out. They look at it. They see that it is a coloring book, but they have nothing to invest in, nothing to do. So they dismiss it. So here we have some figure drawings, and I'm doing one critical thing here that really helps these out. This is a game changer for my people students, not over-describing. Every rounded form, every bony landmark, every detail is just barely described with a bit of shading, maybe a cut edge to imply a plane change, and that's it. This leg looks like a leg because it feels like a rounded cylinder. It has the right contour and shape, and you have a bit of an indication of a few key forms and landmarks, but that's it. I didn't try to render every wrinkle or pore or vein. It's just enough to suggest, and then we stop. 90% of this canvas is white space, suggested but not over-described. Obscuring. Sometimes we can just hide stuff. One of my favorite painting tricks is to darken something with a multiply layer and then mask out a little stripe of light. This hides most of the figure in shadow and only shows the key part where I want attention to go. And I always love this part of a rendering. It looks moody and atmospheric, but suddenly it feels infinitely more realistic because all of those dark parts of the image go from being visible to being possibility. Things hidden in shadow or fog become those containers for our imaginations to fill. What is in that dark corner? What is around that foggy layer in an environment painting? Obscuring creates subconscious questions, and suddenly the image is a collaboration, it's a conversation, rather than just this one-sided thing. Let's check out these awesome noir character designs by legendary artist Val Demchenko. Absolutely incredible, and they're almost entirely black silhouettes. There's so much empty black shape here, but he gives us just enough information for our brains to sort of complete the picture. It's like this trail of breadcrumbs. It preserves all of the mystery and gives us so much to think about and work out for themselves. Chef's kiss on this one. Okay, here's a wild quote. Sometimes nothing can be everything. Let's unpack that. Here is one of my favorite personal paintings and one of the best performing ones in my portfolio. This has led to work inquiries over the years. It has just objectively been a good thing for my career. And more than half of this entire canvas is empty white background. Now, I'm not saying never paint backgrounds, but if the main point of a painting is characters or some other subject, remember that backgrounds are backgrounds. They are meant to sit back and disappear. They provide a sense of a setting, and we want them to kind of be quiet in many cases. What I love about a pure white background is that it lets the characters and the machine design language build this entire world for you. If you look at this one, can you imagine the workshop or the hangar that these characters in this speeder live in? The blank canvas lets it become whatever you think it should be. And I know that sounds like cheating, maybe it kind of is, but it works. This actually has a real effect, even though it is nothing. Okay, if actual blank nothingness feels like too much of a stretch of this concept, let's look at this one. Sci-fi character and his robot buddy looking out onto an endless expanse of desert in this fun where to moment. The characters and the vehicle are definitely the intended focal point, but the rest of the image is basically clouds and nothing. It's sort of this formless void stretching out to infinity with some clouds floating by. Now, rather than filling this space with lots of features or textures or structures or wreckage or any real points of additional interest, I let it fade into formlessness so that it could become a container. It's all possibilities. It's a blank slate. It's this ready-to-go adventure for my viewer to imagine. My absolute favorite thing in art social media is when somebody leaves a comment about what they think is happening in a painting, and it's something that I never considered. That means that I have done this job. I have built this image as that container for them to visit. The image becomes alive in someone else's imagination, and it's doing something that I never imagined myself. That is so cool. Humans can be containers too. A lot of weird statements in this video. Now, people are so complex and full of nuance. It's why drawing and painting people is so unforgiving. The slightest misstep can instantly feel like uncanny weirdness. There are just so many ways for a figure drawing to go wrong, so one shortcut for success is to use this container idea even in your figure drawing work. If you keep poses and expressions subtle and understated, your character becomes more of a question and a possibility rather than a foregone conclusion. I love to draw characters who just look vaguely tired, slouched shoulders, or weight shifted to one leg. Someone who just has stuff on their mind, and that's all we really decide. The rest is up to the viewer to wonder, what's going on with this person? What are they worried about? What are they thinking about? Who are they thinking about? This makes this person who you invented alive and real. Now, don't make characters stiff. In fact, a rigid spine really sinks this effect. But if you can achieve a figure that looks genuinely relaxed, if you can master a slight tilt of the head, a sideward glance, your character starts to feel neutral in a way that lets your viewer project. They engage, they take a step into this other human's world, and they become alive. Okay, let's close with applying this idea to rendering with the brushstroke reality goggles. Have you ever done a 5-minute sketch that you absolutely loved, and then spent 20 hours painting it, only to realize that you like the original sketch more than the painting? I hate that. This plagued me when I first got into digital painting, but now I understand why this happens. When we detail the hell out of a painting, when we polish every pixel, it's like we've answered every question. We filled in every blank. There's nothing left for the viewer to do in the finished product. So, to help a painting survive with all of that sketchy charm and life, let's think about painting in a slightly different way. Instead of this relentless march towards more and more realism, adding detail, adding complexity, think about simplicity. Think about communicating as much as possible with every brushstroke. The brushstroke reality goggles means leaving big visible brushstrokes or marks in parts of your painting. Save that pixel-perfect detail for just a few focal points and see how loose and brushy you can leave everything else. Brushstrokes give your work cover. They're like a reality filter. They make your work into more of an impression so that that face feels like a face. That environment feels like a real place. Brushy brushstrokes sort of sneak a painting past the viewer's defenses and go straight to the visceral reaction, the vibes. So many art gods of ArtStation do this really well. I noticed so many of my heroes leaving things really messy. It was like, wait, why do they get to do that? How is their work still feeling so incredibly real and yet kind of messy or even unfinished? This is the reason why. So the next time you find yourself utterly lost in the pixels or detailing every blade of grass, think about the impression. What does your viewer need to really feel to get what you're communicating with your painting? And sometimes a loose, brushy patch can make something more real in your viewer's mind than hours of painstaking detail. Okay, so all of that from a single page of an 80-year-old book about a boy who lives on an asteroid. So look, do I leave backgrounds blank because it's easier? Yes. Do I fill huge expanses with smudgy marks because it's faster? Yes. But it's also often the right choice, and it keeps a painting alive and floating forward. And more importantly, it helps me connect what I wanted to communicate directly to my viewer without things getting lost in the noise. Art is expression, it's communication, it's connection between two people and creating a feeling and an impression in your viewer's imagination. So just remember, the next time you set out to draw a sheep, sometimes the most perfect sheep that you could ever draw is the one inside of this box.